try! Bill, welcome to Australia. What brings you across the ditch?
Oh, well, I've sort of, when I was so close, I thought, well, I need to come and see the unions. I've been in position as the chairman of World Rugby for not quite 12 months now. I was here last year when England were down here, so I just felt that I wanted to just come and meet the union, and the guys that I see on a regular basis in World Rugby just wanted to pop over.
And Australian rugby at the moment is facing some difficulties. What have you made of the landscape here?
Well, look, sort of, I think all countries go through difficult times, and obviously it's a challenging time for the union, and it's hard to imagine that sort of 2 years ago, that you're in the final of a Rugby World Cup. Look, you know, they've got challenges, you know, and it's World Rugby acknowledge the challenges that Australia face, and but I've got every confidence in the union that they'll ride the storm and come out strong.
Was the meeting just a catch up, or was there any specific points of business, or how did that transpire?
It was something I was always going to do, being down in New Zealand, that I felt that sort of I like to get round the unions. I like to go and see them all because, look, every single union has got its challenges in different ways. And it's sort of whether it's not a case of one sort of hat fits for all. You know, there are different challenges in every region, and sort of, you know, I work very closely with your chief exec Bill. I work very closely with Brett Robinson with World Rugby. So it's just an opportunity to get to come here.
The Super Rugby uncertainty, does that concern you?
Look, sort of, it's up to each individual country to determine what the format of their game is within that country. You know, it's like in England, for instance, there is a very, very strong club domestic league, 12 leagues, 12 teams in that league with promotion relegation. In France, there's 14. And you can't say, well, that is the blueprint for everybody. You know, here you have, you know, you've got sort of your Super Rugby teams in New Zealand, you've got them there, and the same in South Africa, but sort of it's always been slightly different throughout the globe for how people really play their game domestically and how they prepare their international teams.
Well, I mean, Super Rugby has, and with World Rugby's assistance, brought Argentina back into the Southern Hemisphere. Super Rugby has sought to sort of expand to new markets and include Japan and include Argentina. Some argue that's it's been to the detriment of the competition. What's World Rugby's view on Super Rugby's structure? You know, are you keen for it to play that expansion role and persist with those markets?
Well, I think if you look at what Sanzar have done specifically with Argentina, has been a great success. You know, bringing them into the Rugby Championship, I think, has, without a doubt, improved the performance of the Argentinian team, and I think they've enhanced the competition. They've now come into Super Rugby. You've now got the Japanese team in Super Rugby, and you have also in the north, you have sort of the European competitions that are looking to expand into, I think there's 2 teams from Russia, for instance, who are now coming to play in the European Challenge Cup. So I think as long as we're all coordinated of what we're doing, then I think it's only by working together and being collaborative that we'll actually grow the global pot and make it bigger and better for everybody.
How's the global season shaping up at this stage?
Well, we had a really encouraging meeting in San Francisco, and certainly Bill Pulver attended that on behalf of the ARU. Steve Chew attended on behalf of New Zealand, and they represented the Sanzar views that we had the Northern Hemisphere there, we had the Players' Union there, we had domestic leagues there, and I think it was just moving the international season, the winter season down south back from June into July. So that means that you can complete your playing in the Super Rugby competition. It means that the European club games can move back slightly, which suited a few of those countries as well. And the November tests, they remain the same up north, and I think the Six Nations look at whether they might move a week or two back. So it was a really good meeting, and we know what the fixtures are going forward to 2019. So this is post 2019, and the other good thing that came out of it, that there's now approximately 38% more fixtures between Tier 1 and Tier 2 nations. And I think that's really important, that I think as Tier 1 nations have a responsibility to play Tier 2 and not just carry on playing amongst themselves all the time. It's only by playing more games against the Pacific Islands or the Georgians and the Romanians and the Canadas and the USAs that you will actually improve their standards. So when it comes to a World Cup, that you actually have a really global competitive event.
What benefits do you see from that uninterrupted sort of Southern Hemisphere test window? I mean, now we're in a period where we've just come out of 3 tests. Now we're going back into Super Rugby where some teams are already out of contention, interest might not be there. What are the benefits of having that uninterrupted test season in the future?
Well, I think the benefits are that it enhances the competition here, and I think for the North that there is a movement of their domestic season back slightly, and that is to help accommodate down south, because, you know, we appreciate as administrators that the continent, how the time differences for a start that you've got in your competition. You've also got the travel distance, which are enormous, which the Europeans don't face, because in Europe they are back home next day maximum from any game that they ever play. They probably, even in Europe, they go back and play. They can be at the home that evening. But also the other thing, apart from the global season, the thing that in the last 12 months, which has also been really encouraging, was the sevens. You know, how the Olympics was a fantastic success in Rio. We've got the Commonwealth Games here on the Gold Coast next year. That the 7 series was really successful, and what we need to do is grow that as well.
Bill, you mentioned the importance of Tier 1 nations playing in, say, the Pacific Islands. What role can World Rugby play in a similar way that you played with Argentina in funding for Fiji or Tonga or Samoa, for those players to be able to stay at home and maybe play in a Super Rugby team at a new stadium or something like that? Does World Rugby have an obligation to now look in that area and help fund the game there? Because, as you know, those kids are all being taken to Europe and away from their homes and not able to play at home.
Well, they're being taken sort of away from the home, not necessarily all to Europe, but they go away from home. Look, you know, if you look at the contribution in rugby terms that those islands have made, is absolutely enormous, isn't it? You know, their contribution to World Rugby. And I think by being collaborative with with SANZAR and with the stakeholders that are local to here, i.e. the Australian Union and the New Zealanders and World Rugby, and everybody working together, then hopefully then we can help find solutions. And that's what World Rugby like to do, that we have to work with our individual unions, you know, so we like to respond to the initiatives that organisations come up with, and I think certainly World Rugby would look very, very favourably on it.
So World Rugby looked very favourably on a Pacific Island team being in Super Rugby, for example? I
think World Rugby would already invest in the Pacific Islands, significant amount of money, and we want to help that investment, and put it this way, it could well be a Pacific Islands team playing Super Rugby. That might be a solution, but there might be other solutions as well for them.
I mean, I think it was the IRB at the time spent a considerable amount of money investing in Argentina's entry into the Rugby Championship. I guess the question is the Pacific Islands now the new Argentina? Do we need to find a way for them to have a home in World Rugby?
I think we need to find a home for them. Certainly, I think they are, you know, exported of rugby players. you know, and I think what we have to do is sort of, with it, sort of obviously being aware of the economics of rugby as well, that sort of the lure of players to go north and play in the European clubs, you know, which is sort of very tempting indeed for the island players. That certainly, if there is any way in which they can stay on the island and still play top class rugby, then I suppose it's a win-win situation for everybody. So specifically, we will work with the individual unions and the shareholders on Super Rugby to find solutions. That's what we do. We work in collaboration.
Somewhat on that note, it's an issue that affects the Pacific Island guys. What's been the overall reaction to the new eligibility rules that came into place sort of a month, 2 months ago?
Well, it was something that certainly my colleague Augustine Pichot, Gus, that was extremely keen on that it was, and it was unanimous. It was unanimous that we felt that sort of 3 years was, you know, you didn't really have to, you know, it wasn't really long enough, whereby 5 years is a commitment, and you know, it was unanimous, and I think it has been very well received. You know, that sort of, you know, if somebody has lived in a country for 5 years, then certainly they've shown a fair bit of commitment to that country, and to me, that sort of I think it's the right decision and been very well received.
Your heart might lie with the British and Irish Lions, but what's your tip? What is your head saying?
Well, for Saturday?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be, for the rest of the season, I think it's going to be pretty close. I think you witnessed one of the great games of rugby last week, without a doubt. It was a fantastic game, and certainly the Lions will have to improve a bit to beat the Kiwis, but I think they're capable of doing it, but it'll be very close indeed. So with my former captain of the British Lions and World Rugby hat, I'll just remain neutral.
Bill, just on that eligibility situation, is that the end of your investigations or potential changes there? Are there more to come? Like some say that the grandparent rule is now a dated system, and that should look at...
Yeah, I know that sort of other sports have looked at it as well. That sort of, we did consider looking at the grandparent rule, and I think it was felt that you know, let's move to 5 years. Let's see how that is. Sort of alter whether that altered the shape of teams and what have you, and changes their policy to bringing players into a country. And I think the grandparents, it was discussed, but it didn't really have a great deal of traction. So at the moment, I think that would be the main thing. Let's see how this 5 years thing works out.